Today, this is the job we're on, and we have to start somewhere. So if you haven't watched these videos before, well, we've got quite a lot of trees down all around us. It's going to be an awkward one to cut. These are the trees that came down with our last big storm that we had back about 2 months ago. There's a lot of ivy on these trees. It's going to make it very difficult to actually cut these up because there's not a lot of stuff in them. It's just having to tear in and get at the actual timber itself. So you can see where this one came from. It's just a limb that broke and it was starting to rot. You can see the way the base of it here doesn't look too pretty either. You see here the big holes in the middle of it. So probably Ash Day back has took this with it. Now, a few people mentioned, Adrian, would you not go around and take the ivy of your trees? I do, because there's trees up there the whole way around. I've took the ivy of every single one of them. Here, if you can see, there's a big drop there. Not so bad here. The further you go over, the higher this field comes up. At one point, it's about 30 to 40 feet of a sheer drop. And you see the trees are growing kind of out into the neighbouring field. They're growing in the bankment, nearly in the neighbour's field. There's no root to them. And it's very easy for them to topple over. Well, there's a river over there behind me. Or way over there, about 500 yards, there was a mill, a flax mill. That flax mill would have been powered by a wheel that was driven by water. And to get that water from the river over there, they had to dig a trench here, at least 30 foot wide, to bring a flow of water over to that wheel to power that wheel. But I'd say a lot of it was done with pick and shovel. I don't think there would have been diggers in that time, I don't know. But anyway, that's the story on it. There'll be bits and pieces over with me here. It's already gone after 11:30, so there's no time to waste. I want to get a few hours done at this here, so let's tear into it. Very hard to get good chainsaw gloves apparently, because this is my second set of gloves and these things just keep ripping apart. Let me see, here you. We are an hour into it now, and to look at it, you wouldn't think I'd done anything. But look at the pile I have behind me here. That's very steep ground, so that's kind of the awkward part about this. I'm having to carry the bushes uphill to dump them. Just to put them out of my way for now, I'll have to move them again with the front loader. I can do that with the tractor easily once they're all piled together. There's a few sticks there. Definitely having a fight to get them because you can see what I'm kind of dealing with here. It is just a mess of ivy, and this is all ivy you're looking at here, and 70% of that pile, maybe 80% of that pile is ivy as well. Well, I've got a new plan that might help me out a wee bit here. Rather than having to take it from here and walk uphill and dump it up there, I'm going to actually just pile it right beside me here in a couple of small piles. I'm going to come back over with the tractor, lift it all one piece with the shear grab and dump it all on top of that. I'm going to put everything into one pile for now. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. It's a bit of a plan anyway, that's the main thing. Alright, so we've a right wee bit cut up there now. God, it still doesn't look any different, does it? So I've logged it back to here, and what I'm doing at the minute is I'm not cutting the whole way through. I'm just cutting through the actual timber in the middle itself and try and leave the bottom end of this ivy all intact so I can lift it out all in one piece. Just lifting out all the blocks that I've cut so far. The chainsaw just ran out of petrol anyway, so it's a chance to do that. So I'll leave them all in a separate pile for splitting at home because they're bigger sticks. But when we make our way back through this now, get this all cleared before dinner time, I should be able to come over here after lunch and just drive in here with the shear grab and just lift all of this stuff. This field is fairly dry, so it should work out. Those are the famous words. ran out of petrol. I haven't got any more petrol over here with me. It is starting to rain pretty heavy now, but I'm really glad that I was able to get in here. You can see the way it gets tacky very, very quickly when it rains. So I'm going to leave it for now. I have to go home and move fences for tomorrow, push back silage for cattle and get ready for milking. I'll go back here in the morning and we'll tackle in finishing the rest of this, and we'll start into the rest of this stuff, move our way across. So it's the next morning. It rained quite heavy last night. I was actually glad that it rained because it's given a whole dry week after that. Some other good news is the temperatures are supposed to rise as well, up to as much as 18 degrees next week. Yeah, put you in good form to hear that for once. So what I'm going to do here today, it's Friday, and I haven't got as long to work on today because I have other jobs to do at home, but I might get some of that done today. But I want to clear this up here. This is just some of the branches that blew down, must have been from that tree. I don't know how they managed to go so far from that tree, but they did. So I just want to get this cleared here, get this electric fence all fixed up and working. There's that spot cleared. All them bushes is gone. Unbelievable what timber was in it. That was just only a few bits of branches, but there was an awful lot of stuff in it. So there's all the timber from it, and I dragged over the bushes and put them on the pile over there. So this spot here now is cleared. What I want to do is I want to put down a peg or two here, because of a post broke there. I've actually two posts broke there, but I was looking now. The one that it was tied to, the electric fence, is sheared straight off. That one's broken. They're all broken the whole way over. The good old wooden posts don't last very long, and I'm looking to see where I could tie the electric wire to, but I might be fit to get down there and tie it to one of them limbs, because they'd be stronger than anything. But I will have to come back and fix all of this wire. But I just want to show you something else really quickly when I'm here. I don't know if you can see it there on the camera. See all the wee individual stems the whole way along? So I planted that hedge about 3 years ago. A really dry bankment here. But look at the way it grew. The whole way across underneath this owl area here, bit of an owl cliff. I think there is a bit of footage of us, or a video of us clearing this and filling this area over further to get more of our field, or make our field a bit wider, not just leave it so dangerous. There's very little you can do with this, it's just a sudden drop. Then you have 30 to 40 foot straight down there behind, just literally a cliff. This hedge continues the whole way along here and comes across. Now it's a bit hard for me to get over here because I still have to clear this area. No, I'm not going to go any further, but you can see them. They're there. It's too late to plant anymore now, but next year I'm going to actually face this back and continue that hedge the whole way over and over along here where the trees fell. A nice white thorn hedge. It roots into the ground and it kind of stops soil erosion as well. I'll probably buy a couple of 100 white thorn wicks next year and just go round even between the hedges here and there. Anywhere there's a gap, just put a few of them in. But I'm glad to see the way it worked here, because that's a good job. That holds onto that bankment. When it comes to this barbed wire, I'm still going to have to put barbed wire on it. I just don't know what way I'm going to work this. Them steel posts that I use, I don't know if that's going to work for here. I don't know, I may be wrong, but anywhere where there's tension or anywhere where there's a corner or a twist, you have to put something else. It's just not strong enough. Last night, me and Sinead were watching Yellowstone, but we're watching a clip where Rip was taking an agent out on a horseback out to look at where he shot a bear. Two people fell off a cliff and he shot a bear, and he was bringing this agent out, and her horse got bit in the backside by a fly or something, and the horse took off, flung her off, and she landed on top of what looks like them steel posts with barbed wire on them. It's a gruesome sight because the post came straight through her and she thought she was going to die, and it was a rough scene, and Sinead was gritting her teeth like this here. Oh, it's a bit gruesome. Funny enough, the first thing I thought of, even it was going through her, I was saying to myself, that's a lot stronger than them ones, and look at the way it holds the barbed wire, and I just remarked it, you know. Sinead obviously looked at me and said, there's something wrong with you, but look. After having a big team of rain just there, and it was nice just to jump in here and get out of it. And that's why I like working over here. It's so quiet, there's not a noise. You wouldn't know there was anybody else in the world at all. You're not just sawing timber, you're actually thinking as well. Sometimes thinking of what you have to do that evening, or what you're going to do tomorrow, or a plan for this week ahead. But other times you get thinking of other things. And I was thinking of my dad. My dad used to go out and do this kind of work here. Or he used to bring us up what we used to call the haggard. So the yard above your silage pit, that little apron, well, that was always called a haggard. I don't know if anyone else uses that word, but to us it was always called a haggard. Dad would always bring home sticks and lengths. He'd always be out with a bow saw. There was no chainsaw really. He used it a bit, but he was always using a bow saw. And he'd go out with an owl rake with big thick pins in it. I have one that I use as a crowbar, but it was for carrying cocks of hay. He'd put loads and loads, he'd stack it high sky. Dad used to love stacking piles of sticks, or anything, even putting silage in a wheelbarrow, because he was always proud that he could fill it fuller than anybody else. So he used to fill it full of these lengths of sticks, and he'd tie it all down, bring it home, he'd dump them in the haggard. And then whenever there'd come a wet day or something like that, he'd say, come on, we'll go up here and cut sticks. And I used to hate it. That time we were doing it with a chainsaw, and I'd hold the sticks and Dad used a chainsaw. Dad wasn't the handiest on a chainsaw, and it was just monotonous work. I didn't enjoy it. It was all white thorn as well. There was a lot of branches and stuff still on it. But it's only when you get a little older yourself, and then you find yourself out in the field doing the exact same thing. My kids will probably now, when I ask them to help me, will say, oh, I hate this job, I hate this job. So it's amazing the way the thing, or the way the wheel turns around. A lot of the times when I'm doing this, I think of him. I know that he'd be laughing away to himself now, watching me doing this work, shaking his head saying, you used to hate this when you were a child. And he was right for saying that, because I did. But I actually do it now because I enjoy doing it. I like getting out. And Dad used to always say that. It's nice to get out in the field, away from everyone else, and just spend a day working out in the field by yourself sometimes. Nice to have company too, but sometimes by yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. I surely get that more now than I did when I was younger. In the last few months, I've looked back an awful lot on, depending on any job that I'm doing, whether it's calving cows, or whether it's milking them, or whether it's out here working or fencing or whatever it is. I realise how much I learned from both my parents, but particularly my dad, because I spent so much time out in the fields and working with him. You don't realise it in your younger years. There'll come a day where they may not always be sitting beside you. That kind of stuff that they've already embedded into you, that stays with you for life. Anyway, let's get back to work. Well, it's the next day, a very different day. Didn't think it was going to be actually like this. I thought I was given a good day. You'll see something on the back of the tractor that hasn't been on the back of a tractor in a long time. So I bought this about a year before we got the first loader put on the case, the time we had the case. And once we got a loader put on, we started using the bucket in front of it, and this became obsolete. So this is a 7-foot Nugent box. I replaced a Woods box that we had. It was a box that we had for about, could have had it for 20 years plus. The Woods boxes were built like tanks. It was used for things you should never actually use a transport box for. You see where this is dug out here? There's a massive bank behind there. The whole way where this was dug out. And this was dug out back in, I don't know, the very early 90s. It was October time. I remember because it was Halloween, coming very close to Halloween. We couldn't throw any stuff away, so we threw it up in a big pile behind this house here. Left it in a big pile, which has sat then for 2 years. And we never went near it. But my father then said to me, why don't you just throw on the transport box on the 565, I think it was that time, and just draw it down to this field here below. And we filled that whole bottom of that field up with it. It was used as a land leveller. It was used for carrying concrete, stones, everything you could throw at it. We pulled out lumps of gaps and ditches and things and everything with it. It was a powerful transport box, but we had wore it out. Bottom skids had went, we didn't notice it, and then it wore through the bottom plate on the box. So we changed it, and I went to buy a new Woods box with a double ram, a 7-foot. I wanted something that went out past the wheels of the tractor. We fit to go in then to the slatted house, and we fit to get right in tight to the barriers. Once the box went out wider than the wheels, we could lift the silage and take it out and dump it, and that was why we wanted a wider box anyway. So went to buy a new Woods box and I couldn't get one anywhere in the country. I seen this one, thought about it for a while, it looked strong, and I ended up buying it. So like our Woods box, it was a single ram, but it was a much lighter ram than this one. And I thought when I was buying this, a big ram, solid job, but no. The bigger ram means it takes more oil to fill it, which means it's slower. The other one, I could use it like a shovel. I was that used to it. You could flip stuff up with it, you could shake stuff out, dust on laneways. It just had that quick movement, which is one of the things that made it so handy. But then you have to realise that this is a wider box, so it does probably require, once it's a single ram, it probably requires a larger one. So I know they make one with a double ram, and maybe Nugent does as well. I'm wondering if anybody has one of those, are they quick or are they slow? That I don't know. But today it's back on the tractor. We're going to start using it again. But there's a couple of things that really do need to be fixed in it. So I'm going to hook it off the back of the tractor, sort them out, because it can't be used the way it is. This pipe here is completely busted, and that pipe, it isn't busted there, but it's leaking here badly. It's got a little bit bent. I think I know what happened with that one. I picked it up with the front forks, hit the front of the loader, and it just bent it. So the oil is spewing out of them. So let's sort that. Now this one is slightly different, as in there's a 90-degree angle on it, but actually, you know what? I prefer that. That's it. Alright, these ends on now. Here's something that might interest you. Do you have one of these, or do you have a Milwaukee one, or some equivalent to that? Well, I have this now for the past 5-6 years. It's a good little thing, but I don't use it an awful lot. And one of the reasons I don't use it is because the cartridge size. If you're greasing a lot of stuff, the cartridge is quite small. And on this one, believe it or not, it's not just the smallness of it that's the problem, but it's the changing of it. Now this cartridge here will probably pop out. It did. But before that, I couldn't get the cartridges out. They were getting caught here. I fixed it by just getting a Dremel and taking the wee lip inside. So if you're having trouble with yours, just have a look with your finger and see is there a little lip there. And that was catching all of these cartridges. Maybe different cartridges do different things, but the ones I was using always had trouble getting them out. So this little yoke here is a piece of aluminium. I think someone actually made this one for the place that I bought it. It was €40, so there's a lot of work put into making it, I suppose. That fella screws up in there. Now I was told to put some plumber's tape on this just to help seal it, so I'm going to do that now. Just have to be careful with laying our threads up right. That's that fella in there. That should now mean that we can use the larger grease cartridge, and this just screws into that. Simple as that. Now I have an idea, and you can say yes or no. Because this is a fairly new box, there's no wear on it at all. The paint has got, well, look for yourself. No, there is rust coming on it there, just purely from sitting. There was water laying in it too. All my own doing. But I may actually get this sandblasted and repaint it. Now, if it wasn't on YouTube, I probably wouldn't bother. But I have another idea. When we get it sandblasted, one thing I'd like to learn to do is spray paint for an actual proper gun. I have 2 of them in there, 2 guns, and I always was optimistic that I'm going to learn how to spray. It's not that complicated, but I was always just fearing of doing it. I have a big enough compressor in there, 300 litres. Or is it 200 litres? One or the other, but it's big enough anyway. So I might get somebody to come here and do a tutorial on how to spray paint. I might ask about and find someone who's willing to do that. I don't mind paying their day's pay. But to do a tutorial, and kind of I can share it with you, I'll learn, and hopefully some of you might learn too. And how to just do basic spraying, how to clean out a gun, how to mix paint, what type of paint to go for, that type of stuff when you're painting just bits and pieces of machinery. A bit of painting to be done there too. I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube on spray painting, and some of the ways they explained it seemed a wee bit complicated or just went over my head. So we might make a very simple version of it, just for doing farm machinery, nothing too exotic. By the way, I know a lot of you ask, mid-April is when I'll be back at this here, maybe a wee bit before that. I have down here in front last night at 9:30 our first delivery of fertiliser has just landed. So on Monday morning, the fertiliser will be starting to go out. So yeah, one job into the next one, But that's what springtime's all about. Well, that's it. I'm going to leave it there for now. We'll go and tackle the next job.